back. We're back. Back with another episode. Back with our first recurring guest,
Yeah.
Landon Campbell. Excited to get into that. But before we get into that, if you're not watching the YouTube video, Carlton has kind of a devious smile and told me he has something to say. So once again,
Well,
I am nervous
so
and excited.
Landon was saying that you have the best intros. So I'm just
Oh,
gonna
oh no.
compliment you because you always do have good intros. But so hopefully this is not our last podcast, but it might be because I woke up this morning. People are gonna think I'm a gross human, but I promise I take most cautionary steps when I work outside. I woke up this morning and I felt a pain in my stomach, and I looked down and there was a tick
Oh my
just
goodness.
fully embedded. And I took
What?
a shower last night after I did yard work. So I don't know when I didn't notice it last night, but this morning I noticed it. So had to do a little removal and hopefully don't have
Wow.
Lyme's disease and
Listen, if
hopefully
this
I'll
is the
be
last one, first of all, we will do a very nice commemorative thing for you here on the show. I mean, what a way to go out,
yeah.
just a fully
Yeah.
embedded tick
I'm
in your
probably
stomach.
dramatizing it, but
That is not what I was expecting you to say
yeah,
when
not at
you
all.
were bringing this idea. Well,
How
you
are
can
you
only, we
doing,
can only,
Adam?
what's that?
How are you doing?
Yeah, we can only go up from there. I'm doing well. Speaking of unexpected things that have happened to us, Carlton, do you know we are now at 72 5-star ratings on our way to
Wow,
100?
man.
72, slower than we need to be. And if you're listening to this, if you hear the sound of my voice and you have not given us a 5-star review, this is your chance. The reckoning day is coming. This is another reminder to you to give a 5-star review right now. Pause the show, go give us one. But
They're gonna
in the
give us a
meantime,
1-star review for my tick stories.
yeah, let us know what you think about embedded
Yeah,
ticks. Are you
yeah.
for them, against them, etc. In the meantime, let me read you one of our recent reviews. It comes from Ethan. His review says, "Super tactical, 5 stars. This show is great. I work at a large newsletter company and find this show to be very tactical. Great for people who are actually building content products every day rather than just thinking about it." Love to hear that. The guest selection is unique too. Rather than just focusing on founders, they mix in seasoned operators who are down in the trenches, which just adds to how actionable the advice and insights are. 5 stars. Super nice review. And
Yeah, that's incredibly nice. I'm gonna
yeah,
frame that and put it on my wall.
did content is for, if this was a tweet, it would be like quote tweeted and say, "Did content is for closers write that?" Because that's basically what we'd want to hear.
This will work for
So
you. Yeah.
thank you, Ethan, for that very nice review. Like I said, we are at 72 on our way to 100. We need to make some headway here. We're slowing down. We had a good push there after we announced it a couple weeks ago, but continue. Give us your listen. Put an ad in there for your company. I don't know how else to like. I'm saying it so straight up. Just do it. I'm gonna
Yeah, I
read it
thought
on
you were gonna
air.
have we were gonna just have to, create rules or something around it, but
No,
clearly
no
you just have
rules.
the
This is the
nicest
Wild West.
listeners.
Yeah, yeah.
They
Anyway,
want us
speaking of the
to
Wild
succeed.
West, you heard from our guy Landon Campbell. A lot happened between the last time he came on and this episode. Did anything stick out to you in particular?
Yeah, another great episode. He's really, you can tell he's hitting on all cylinders. He went from, it was probably our show that did it, really,
I
but he
think
went
so.
from being on our show to then working for Jason Calacanis and at inside.com, which is a really interesting organization of itself when you look at content and how to use content to grow a business. But I think really there's a few big takeaways, and I don't want to steal his thunder,
Or spoil his thunder.
or spoil his thunder.
Even worse.
Yeah, which would be way worse. Uh, make sure I got that right this time. But I think he was talking a lot about new technologies, and we mentioned this I think 2 podcasts ago. Um, how can podcasting, how can some of these um, methods of content creation get more social, or what can happen around interaction and engagement? And there's several platforms out there. He mentioned a couple of them, specifically Call In, Fireside's another one. You got the bigger players like Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces, but using that to leverage a new audience. There's this in the technology world, you've got a lot of walled gardens, and sometimes that can be a limiting factor, but sometimes it also really helps you get discoverability.
Hmm.
So that walled garden approach can be a little frustrating at times, but you can use it to your advantage by being an early mover.
So you just mean because when you're in the walled garden, if you become somebody, you're a big fish in a smaller pond,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah, and it's harder for new entrants to come in and siphon off that audience or distract your audience, right? So
yeah.
yeah, that's a great point.
Especially with a medium like podcasting that's so sticky.
Mhm.
And then you throw in an engagement or a specific app
Yeah.
that has to be, it has to be utilized on, and that becomes even more sticky.
Yeah. Yeah, you touched on it for a second there. I thought, obviously, Landon's an incredible worker, incredible content creator, and everything he's done continues to prove that. I'm excited for him. He's actually already, we're scheduling his third appearance because you mentioned he's working for Inside.com. They're launching and announcing some really big stuff coming out soon that we couldn't get into on this episode, but we will shortly. So I'm excited for that. And then I just think he's one of those people that is, one of our customers, Arlen Hamilton, who leads Backstage. It just announced yesterday this really cool idea. She's producing a soap opera. She loves soap operas, right? She's producing a podcast soap opera, and it's built on the premise of being in Silicon Valley, so it has
All
a
my
loose
startups.
connection. What's
Is that
that?
what it's called? Is it called All My Startups, or what is it called?
I can't remember what it's called. I'll link. I'll have Tristan link it in the notes. But it's something new, fresh, an entirely new idea, and I think it's the exactly what Landon is talking about in this episode, and what we talked to Steph Smith about just a few weeks ago, which is continuing to find new and fresh ways to use the medium. He's a perfect example of that. I think we're just scratching the surface. We're going to continue to see him do more and more, and I'm excited to watch that journey. So let's get into it with Landon Campbell. On this episode, we have our first return guest, Landon Campbell. Landon is the founder and host of the In Their 20s podcast, in addition to working as an executive for Inside.com. Last time we caught up with Landon, we mainly talked about his show In Their 20s and all of the momentum that he had created in his career as a result of it. Since then, he's leveraged the show to get a full-time job. We'll talk about it, and is now leading one of the most dynamic content organizations in the world. During our conversation, we got an update on what Landon has been up to, how his creation process is adapting with his new responsibilities, and what has him most excited about content right now. I always enjoy talking to Landon, and I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Think you will too. Let's dive into this episode with Landon Campbell from Inside.com. He is back. We're back on the show, Landon Campbell. If you missed it the first time, we had Landon on episode maybe like 8 or 10 or something like that. And Landon, you came on and talked about all about In Their 20s, what you were doing at the time. I think you had either just accepted a job at Inside, or you were
Mhm.
about to. But you've been there for a little while, and so it was just time to have you back and get a quick update on all things Landon. How's it been going?
It's going good, man. Excited to be back. Adam, you have the best intros in the podcast game, so appreciate
Oh,
that.
good, good. Glad you like them.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, since we talked to you, you started. Are you at Inside.com or This Week in Startups, or it's all the same thing? I always get it confused.
Yeah, so it's all separate, but we're under the
Oh,
Jason Calacanis umbrella. But yeah, just to kind of like give people a reminder of the last episode, I interviewed
yeah, yeah.
Jason Calacanis on my podcast last year. I was able to leverage that and turn it into an opportunity to work from him. And now I'm an executive at his company, Inside.com, which is a media company. We create the best content for business leaders, entrepreneurs, and founders, covering many different verticals: crypto, tech, VC, e-commerce. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you've been all over the place. I see you hosting panels and yeah, like you said, discussions on crypto and all these different things.
Yep.
I guess first, I'm just curious, like, how's that been? I don't know that you were necessarily like a crypto expert going into it. How's it been just like catching up, feeling the learning curve and all that, so you can host those types of discussions.
Of course, the fun thing about crypto, metaverse, Web3, whatever it is, it's still so early. Like we
It's
have
true.
just not even scratched the surface of what the industry will look like in the next year, 2 years. I mean, if you were to tell Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase 5 years ago, that you'd be having an ad during the Super Bowl, like, you'd be like, what? And now look at all these crypto ads that we saw during the big game on Sunday. So I think that you don't have to like be an expert in it, because we're all kind of learning and figuring it out at the same time as we go. And where I like to spend a lot of my time, and I tell all my friends who are interested in learning about crypto, they're looking for the best resources, get on Twitter. Curating a good Twitter feed can literally be your secret weapon to understanding what's going on in the space, because the smartest people are on Twitter. And where do they share kind of their first thoughts, where they the thoughts they get in the shower, like when they're on walks, like Twitter. Twitter is going to be like the resource place for that. So I found a really good just group of people, and I kind of get to read their first thoughts before they go on CNBC, before they write long newsletters or articles. They're kind of tweeting out ideas. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great resource.
Awesome. Yeah, you've been doing a great job. I've hung out in a few of those spaces and things like that and really enjoyed it. The other thing we have to address, people have been asking, there's a direct correlation between when you joined J. Cal's media empire and all of his shows, I think two of them, going into like top 10 of all podcasts. What are you doing specifically, Landon, that's driving this? I know you're behind the map there.
I know, I'm learning. I'm fortunate to be surrounded by amazing people, people who have, really given me responsibility. I mean, I've had a lot of jobs in the past where, and I know nothing kind of happens overnight, but I mean, it helps when you have someone like a mentor, someone that you look up to, like give you responsibility, like really see something in you. And I spent a time at a lot of other jobs in the past where, I'd work my butt off, but, just wasn't given that one shot. And I
Mm,
think that a lot of times, like, all we need is that one shot. So I've been fortunate to just work for someone that I really respect so much and have learned so much from. In addition, I mean, he's allowing me to lead, within our team at Insight. So it's something that I'll always be fortunate to have given an opportunity to, but also like I don't want to screw it up. So I mean, it's
no, you're
the
doing a
stakes
great
are
job.
high, but I'm having fun doing it.
Yeah. I've seen you've been doing a lot of stuff in Twitter Spaces, and I think that's both kind of for Inside and in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
What's your? You really liked Clubhouse, right? Or
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah. I
still
was
do?
big. I was a big Clubhouse user. I think I got a lot of respect for Colin David Sachs. He's incubating a
Oh yeah,
company.
yeah. I've seen him
Yeah.
do that
So
too.
we spoke about how I view distribution last time,
Hmm.
but I'll kind of just break it down. Shortly. If you're gonna get involved in like any industry, any interest, any market, mine being podcasting, you kind of got to see like the full. The full funnel. Like you want to
Yeah,
understand everything. So I've been interacting with a lot of live podcasting apps, a lot of social audio companies, and there's a differentiation also between social audio and live podcasting. We can talk about that in a little bit too. But in order to understand podcasting to the best of my ability, like I've really wanted to see it all. So you could just kind of stick with the platforms that work for you. That's fine. But I recommend like if you're going into something and you don't know anything about it, like because I wasn't a podcast listener before starting my show. I didn't have a podcast, obviously, before starting my show. Didn't know anything about the space. So I've really made it a mission to just like know about every new company on the podcasting market.
yeah,
This person's doing this person's doing that, because it's been a great way for me to distribute my content, through these other platforms. Um, I mean, being on Colin early was like how I got David Sachs on my show. So I
Oh,
think
cool.
that you got to be scrappy no matter what it is. It doesn't have to be for podcasting. It can be if I want to be, the next big singer, like I'm going to be experimenting with so many different platforms, learning video creator. The sky's the limit, but you just want
Yeah.
to diversify for sure.
Maybe we'll have to do a it'd be fun to do like a Spaces with you and Ruben and a few of the other people who have been around the podcast game a little bit.
Yep.
And maybe just talk about some of that stuff. I feel like there's a renewed. We had like the minting of the creator economy. What, like 18 months ago, probably, or maybe during COVID, and
Yes.
it's almost like people are now rediscovering it or discovering it for the first time. That you can build a content platform, a media brand that turns into a business all on its own. So I think that'd be an interesting thing to talk about.
That would
You
be a lot of
alluded
fun.
there. You alluded to in their 20s. Can you give us an update on that? What's been going on? What's got you excited over there?
Yeah, so still have in their 20s. We're in the crew neck right now, and
Nice. That's good.
still feels good to be working on that, bringing in some great guests, and continuing to do that for my show. It's when I look at in their 20s, it's just all about baby steps. We never wanted to bring on sponsors too early. Never wanted to, like we created an internship, but we didn't want to start that too early. It's all about just focusing on this thing. Okay, we accomplished that. That's checked off of our list. We can then move to this one, then move to this one. That was something that I started with, my co-founder who passed away. We were very like, one of our main principles was, we'll take it day by day. We'll have these big goals and like, big objectives, but you got to do it day by day. And, even since his passing, I've continued that. So we have some exciting things in the works for sure, but just still, taking it day by day. And I know we're going to be talking about my theory on podcast market fit. I
Yeah,
think
let's just
that
talk about it.
if you want a show that like lasts and has a lasting impact, a show that's able to build a strong audience, a show that you want others to take seriously, you got to find this thing I call podcast market fit. It's the same with any founder of a startup. They're looking for that thing called product market fit. So they're building the product, but they're trying to find a way for it to fit, within a given market, within a given ecosystem, customer base, etc. The reason why so many podcasts quit, we spoke about the numbers last time, 90% of podcasters quit after episode 3, is because they're trying, too much too early. It's very difficult to find guests. They kind of give up. The listenership isn't what they want it to be. And that's not something that's going to happen overnight. You got to really put in the time. Listenership, didn't get to what I want my show to be. I mean, I wanted it to be until like our 50th episode. That's when people, I feel like, kind of started to understand the theme of the show. And even, recently, we've kind of just started to find, the ideal audience member that we'd want to go after. So you gotta, if you want to build something, a large show that, as you mentioned, like can pivot into something larger in the media ecosystem, you got to take your time to find that podcast market fit. Create a lot of content. Sure, you want to create episodes that you would listen to, but also you got to think about the listener, and you got to really, have a theme that makes sense. You're bringing on the right guests that make sense for the show. Even the length of your episode. I mean, those are all things that you have to take into account and really just like get people focused on. And that's how over time you build that, market fit within a podcast.
Yeah, when I saw you tweet about it, it was so perfect because first of all, it's just a great little moniker. Like, the product is replaced with
Yeah.
podcast, and so it's just like
Yep.
very clear as to what you're saying. And then it made so much sense because of who you are and the fact, like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, well, he is the perfect example of that because of just the way that you've developed your show around. And I'm talking about in their 20s now, like
Of course.
just around your interests, your curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
the stage of life that you were in, and what I think will be a creative challenge for you over time is as you mature and grow out of, and you're still young, but I'm just saying as you get more experience, I bet it will be difficult in some way to connect with like the people who are where you were. Do you know what I mean?
No,
To
I,
some
I
degree.
agree 100%. Yeah, yeah. And that's something I also have to keep in mind. I mean, if it's going to be me bringing on other co-hosts, that are younger, they go to that audience, or other, types of content that we're able to build. I mean, we're kind of, because I have a little team that I work with in their 20s on, and, we're starting to invest our time a little more into TikTok. I mean, those are all things we do keep in mind
Yeah.
because, if we want to have a, lasting impact and we're able to hit the whole market of 20 somethings, we got to be really we got to be continuing to innovate, constantly, not getting too comfortable,
Yeah.
and just patience.
Yeah, but anyway, you personify that so well. And one question I had is you gave a lot of context as to the things to look for. But I think a lot of people that I talk to anyway that are in podcasting have this trouble of figuring out the best way to actually engage or to
Hmm.
communicate with two-sided with their audience. So bringing back to what we were talking about earlier with some of either the social listening or social podcasting, have you found anything specifically that's helped you have that two-way connection as opposed to just the one-sided of the show?
Yes, great question, Adam, because I'm very bullish on live podcasting. So, I have In Their 20s. That's like, my first show. I just recently created another show called Venturing in VC through
Oh, I didn't know that.
inside.com.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I've had that for about, we launched it actually like the first week of January. We're going to be recording our 6th episode live after this, actually. But, I'm very bullish on live podcasting. There are a lot of platforms to do that, like on Callin, Restream. If you think of like, Jason's show Twist, I mean, that's a live show. He allows people to kind of tune in as it's being recorded, and then it gets distributed on platforms, a day after, 2 days after. With Venturing in VC, we record every Tuesday at noon, then it goes live Thursday mornings.
Cool.
But this is nice. I mean, it just gives an opportunity to build community, allow your audience to join in, ask questions. And it can be a little scary too, because if there are any mistakes, I mean, it's live, it's a show.
Sure.
But I think that that's just a big part of podcasting that I'm very excited about, because, imagine if Joe Rogan's show was live. I mean, I think the engagement that he already has is with his audience, the relationship, like that would be 10x. I mean, if I'm allowed to watch and kind of tap in, ask questions, react to it in real time. So there are a lot of shows that are, trying this live podcasting model. Pat McAfee's podcast, you're able to tune in live, and then it gets published at a later date. I think that should be something that a lot of podcasters consider. But if you don't want to just like get started right away, with streaming to the masses, you can start on a platform like Callin. You can start on a lot of these other live podcasting platforms where you're able to, let your audience become a part of the show. And that's the difference to me of social audio and live podcasting. I think social audio was made to be a feature. So we
So
haven't seen so
can you
much
define,
success recently.
can you just real quick give
Yes,
definition to that? Yeah.
of course. Yeah, yeah. So social audio, those are like the Twitter Spaces. Those are like the Clubhouses. I don't know if you guys remember Spotify Green Room. Spotify had a little social audio. Facebook was building a social audio. Discord has a social audio. Social audio is a great feature. So similar to like an Instagram story, a Twitter space, they already have the existing audience. This is just another area for their users to communicate and hang out. And it can be, off the cuff. It could just be, we're starting a room, we're going to have a conversation. I think social audio is a great feature. Callin and even Fireside, there are a few other platforms. I like to think of it as live podcasting, where these are individuals, hosts who want to build high quality shows. So they care about how their audio sounds. And Restream, for example, I don't know if Riverside has a live,
They do. Yep.
allowing people to, yeah. So that's like a live podcast aspect. And I feel like live podcasting still has some room to grow, because if we want the masses of podcasters and content creators to be making shows strictly on these live platforms, I just think the audio quality has to continue to improve. But I think we can get there. Think about how there are so many music video directors and famous photographers that are able to use their iPhone because the hardware has evolved over time. If audio on phone is able to improve, greatly over the next 10 years, which I think it will, 100%. I mean, I think Moore's law. I mean, technology advancing every 2 years, it compounds. I think that we'll have more people creating like actual high quality shows just from their phone.
Yeah.
Lowering the barrier of entry to creating a show, because anybody can create a podcast, but you do need a lot of equipment, and you need a lot of support. If I can use an app like Callin, which this is what they want to do, if I can use an app like Callin and like there's high quality audio, I can create it from my phone. I don't need equipment. Like we'll see so many more Joe Rogans eventually, so many more big podcasters.
Totally agree. And I agree too with I mean, if you just look, I'm recording this or using the camera right now from the latest iPhone, and like that thing can shoot, movies essentially in terms of
Yes.
the visual, not, but you're right. And the audio just hasn't for some reason kept up, and it hasn't needed to. But
Mm-hmm.
now that audio is becoming even more and more of a thing, I think it'll continue to go that way. Last question, and then
Yeah,
I know you got a bunch of other stuff to do, and I really appreciate you jumping back on with us.
of course.
Um,
Yeah.
with that, we've interacted about this on Twitter a bunch of different times, but
Mm-hmm.
there's this rising murmur of like, oh, look at this, another whatever guy with a podcast or another business with a podcast or blah blah blah. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. I know the thesis overall that you agree with me, but you know, what do you think about the people who are like, you know, podcasting is white noise, we've already hit saturation, etc. Where's your take on that?
There are only like 2.7 million podcast shows out there. If you think about how many songs there are, if you think about how many YouTube pages there are, I mean, it's such a small market. So literally, I mean, if you are getting at least like, I mean, before we kind of answer that question, I mean, if you're able to get at least like, I forgot what the specific number is, but like, 1,000 downloads, which, isn't anything for a musical artist. It isn't anything for, really doesn't matter on YouTube, but like as a podcaster, I mean, just 1,000 listens. I mean, you're kind of like close to the 1%. So
Really, I didn't
of
know that.
and like, yeah. So they might have the numbers wrong a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's very close to that. So what I mean is like the window of opportunity, I mean, is there. So I think that we're still so early. Yes, podcasting has been around since the early 2000s. And for a long time, it hadn't, changed a lot. But now we have things like social audio, live podcasting, a lot of, companies like Riverside coming along, that are helping to innovate the space a lot. So I think it's a very exciting time to get into it. Another reason why I'm so bullish on the medium, if you want to just create a podcast just to, talk with your friends, shoot the shit, have fun, that's fine. I mean, that's for, I mean, people can do
Yeah.
that. But I think there are so many opportunities to like turn your podcast into so many different things, pivot into getting a new job opportunity, pivot into becoming a media agency that helps other people create podcasts. I've been able to sit down with some amazing people whom I would have never had access to if not for my show, or sorry, with my show, I should
Right.
say.
Right.
So I think that it doesn't just have to be like this one-sided thing. Like I all the podcast memes are funny. Yes, like we don't need another podcast, bro. But I mean, there are a lot of people that like actually taking this serious. They have goals, objectives of like, building something on top of their podcast, and they realize that the podcast is just the vehicle to help them get there. So I think that there's that. And the last thing I'll say is there are no mediums like podcasting. I mean, you have 30 minutes to an hour plus of someone's undivided attention. I can't watch a YouTube video when I'm driving or at the gym, like, because it's too hard to focus on that. But just, people are able to tap in, they're able to listen, to hear what's going on in someone's mind. People really respect the medium. And if you need proof, look at the numbers of Joe Rogan's show compared to a lot of these legacy media companies. Like it's outpacing, and like people are, there's just so many great shows out there, different opinions, different perspectives. If you don't like one, you can tap into another one. I think people are just overwhelmed and tired with like these large, legacy media companies where, they have an agenda, they have stakeholders. With podcasting, it's early. There's a lot of shows still,
Yeah.
2.7 mil, but it's still early.
Yeah, a couple just follow-ups on that. So I think first of all, I mean, every show has an agenda, obviously. Like that's one thing the podcast, yeah, of course they have an agenda. They wouldn't be spending their time, but you know what the agenda
Sure.
is. It's transparent. Or
Yes.
you know that they have an agenda. I think that's an important caveat and
Yes.
difference. The second thing I was going to say is to your point about using it as a relational tool, which I think is by
Mm-hmm.
far to me still one of the just under the radar things people just don't seem to grasp. I'm talking to you,
Yeah.
you and I didn't know each other until we had this our first conversation. After this call with you, I am having Henry Belcaster on and Dylan Jordan, who I know you know.
Oh, he's awesome. He's in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've built their entire business on the back of, now they were just doing what we talked about it. Like they were just two friends just making a pod,
Mm-hmm.
but they've built an entire business on the back of that. We just had Justin Gordon on, who you know as well,
Yep.
last week.
He's awesome.
And he talks about this idea of a serendipity engine and how, you're able to create these connection points and these, collision of ideas through spending the time doing the Blocking Tackle podcast. So anyway, our audience already knows how I feel about it. I just felt like I had to also say that in addition to what you were saying.
You should say it every single episode. I mean, until people really understand it, because I mean, what you're saying is truth. Like, it's such a strong relational tool. If you already have, a large company, you can use podcasting as a way to, further build your community, really get on that one-on-one level with your audience. And also, if you're starting from nothing, starting from scratch, use podcasting to get into those doors.
That's right.
Because you never know, you might be working for Jason Calacanis one day, unexpectedly, just from starting a podcast. So my point is, you never know where it can take you. All you just got to do is get started and try.
Yeah, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on. I know you're super busy, and I appreciate you fitting us in. We're gonna have to keep tabs on what you're doing, and maybe in another 6 months we can have you come back on and give us another update.
Of course, yeah. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, so we'll save it for the next 6 months. But we're launching a competitor to LinkedIn at Inside.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. I mean, we'll save it for the next one because our beta is launching at the end of this month.
Okay.
So it'll be nice to kind of see the first 6 months, and then we can talk about it. But
Great.
we're really
Great
excited.
tease.
It's a social news site.
I hope I get an invite to that.
Yep.
That sounds awesome.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we'll get that sent over.
Cool, Landon. Well, appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome, Adam. Thank you.